Hey guys, welcome to Coaching with Chris. Happy June. Can you believe it? It's already June. I love June. Like June for me is like birthday month. We have all these birthdays. My family has tons of birthdays in June, so it's fun to be able to celebrate these birthdays. But I love summer. I love heat. And here we go. Now in the mortgage business, in the month of June, we're working leads. And one of the things that I'm trying to get everybody to think about is that mortgage and leads, but it is not a database. It is not our past clients. It is not our all of these different buckets. The most important thing that we need to look at this thing is at a portfolio. So I want to say something to you that was like hit me in the face. It's like I think so many loan officers today are betting on the market and we're waiting for the market. Like I know personally, I've said I've waited for the market to change every 90 days for 3 years and it hasn't changed. And in a moment, like I was thinking about that, I was betting on this market that was going to come. And I want you to look at this differently. I want you to think about betting on yourself. Like, what would happen if you bet on yourself? Now, a lot of things start to like go through my thought processes when I tell myself, look, there's no one else I want to bet on more than Moa. And so if you're not betting on yourself in this market, let me help you bet on yourself, not bet on this market, because it doesn't work. And it's so many loan officers are waiting for it, and there's no reason to wait. But that's not why you joined Coaching with Chris. I have a really cool special guest. Let me tell you, her follow-up is insane. Her follow-up should be the way when she wants something, when she wants to meet someone, her target and her mission, it's spot on. It's perfect. And she goes after it. And I'm like, if more loan officers would do that, their business would change. Instagram prospecting coach, speaker, host of Coffee and Questions. Michelle, are you here?
I am. Hello, Chris.
How are you?
I'm great. Not complaining. And also, my birthday is June 19th. So June is a good month.
Aha. I am Flag Day.
Love it.
Do you know when Flag Day is?
I don't. Should I? Oops.
I could tell by your facial expressions you didn't know. It's very close to your birthday. It's the 14th.
Oh my gosh. Look at that. I've met more June birthdays in the last week, I swear. And I know like 4 other women that all are June 19th. So something in the June waters.
It's the June waters. So it's actually in the September waters.
Yeah, exactly. Conceived in September, born in June.
Yeah. So my parents got married in 1971 in September 17th. And I was born June 14th. So forever, it never really clicked to me. And finally, I went back to my mom years later and I'm like, Mom, that's pretty close. She goes, I know. It was really close.
Gosh.
Well, tell me about yourself. Like, I think this is kind of fun. You just all of a sudden came into the mortgage scene for me. And did you start out in mortgage? Because it really feels like you've targeted the mortgage market, but like, tell me your little bit of background and tell me what you're really working on and passionate about today.
Yeah. So it's funny because I feel like, well, first of all, just thank you for having me. But I think it's been funny for me over the last 3 to 6 months. It seems like a lot of people are saying, oh my gosh, Michelle, we've never seen you before. Oh my, you're just everywhere now. And I think that that's a big part of the conversation we'll probably have today, but that's just not true. I've been here grinding and doing what I do every single day. It's just people are starting to pay attention. Right. And I think that's the beautiful side of it. But to answer your question poignantly, I'll go way back to the beginning because I think it's relevant and it ties perfectly into where is Michelle going and what does Michelle have coming up, because it's just all related to the same story. But I am an athlete. I've been an athlete my entire life. I started swimming competitively at the age of 5 and have been an athlete since I can remember. And there were 4 storms in my life that I document regularly and then I talk about regularly. And in between all 4 of them, there's some form of athletics that has been a part of that story. And also my faith, I'm a big person of faith and someone who believes that God gives us a mess to give us messages, and it's up to us to find them. Mm-hmm. And in every storm, there's been a message, and that message has correlated into, long story short, why I've chosen to work with the mortgage industry. Because people have asked me, they're like, we wouldn't be surprised if you decided to work with other industries or just entrepreneurs in general, because the mortgage space, hey, it's hard right now. But I think we're in a water or in a season, right? Water figuratively, but we're in a season where it's up to us to show up and stay and to prove that we're capable of being part of an industry that is cyclical, right? And is in a little bit of a down on its way up. So I feel like it would have been easier for me to leave, but better for me to stay. And I think that, again, that's all correlating back into it. But, other than that piece of it, specifically what I can tell you, Chris, is I believe in something called the Black Line. And there's a big overarching part of this conversation that we're going to talk a lot about. But what the Black Line really is my superpower, or really my way of laser focusing on one thing that creates the momentum that has then in turn made a lot of people say, oh my gosh, Michelle, you've just burst onto the scene. But I know you know this, but mortgage professionals are gritty individuals. They are the type of people, the ones that are successful, right? They're the type of people that just don't know how to say no and don't quit. There are a lot of people that will, as you and I have seen, but the ones that win don't. And I think that that's why I love the mortgage industry so much, because I am that way. I had a saying, I posted this on LinkedIn very recently, that I think fitness or like athletics is the new real flex, right? Like as opposed to, my Rolex or my fancy cars. Like I think athletics and your just fitness in general, I think is the cool new thing.
Well, crap, I'm going to have to go back to working out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have both. So, but yeah, I just think there's something in it. It's the new disc profile, right? I think we used to rely so heavily on the disc profile of like, hey, let me characterize this type of individual. Are they the right person to be in the mortgage industry, or are they the right person to work for me? And I think my point in saying that to you is I think that we need to look at it and reframe who we're hiring, why we're hiring them, and why we're working with certain people. And that's why I mentioned that.
Do you concentrate when you're coaching? Do you concentrate a lot on one format or several formats? Like what, when you're taking a client and you're coaching a client, how do you evaluate and start out to their needs and then be able to help them be able to convert it, not just in a cool, I got all these followers, which I think is, I'm probably a little bit like saying, okay, great. Is it making you money type of thing? But you're trying to convert it to actually an ROI.
Yeah. Vanity is seductive and it's pointless in most cases. And it's the way I describe it, on the swimming analogy side is the vanity aspect. How many followers do I have? How many likes am I getting? Video views? Am I getting? All of that stuff. That's like the 50-meter free. Right. And I know you didn't get to stay when we first met, but I talked a lot about this because the 50-meter freestyle is this really fast event. It's flashy. It's very explosive. As soon as the, ladies or men hit the water, boom, the race is over. And oh my gosh, wow. Right. And it's just sort of exciting to watch. It's the crowd favorite for a reason. But the average 50-meter freestyle, both men and women combined, is 23 seconds. It's not a long time. And I swam the mile. So I swam the longest event on the program, both for men and women. There is no longer event unless you decide to go swim open water. But the average female is roughly 16 and a half minutes now as an elite Division I swimmer. Men is obviously a lot faster than that, low 15s. But the reality is one requires that, or one sort of entices you on the dopamine side. It's going to make you feel really good for a second. And you're like, boom, look how cool I am. And on the other hand, the long distance event, in this case, the mile, is more like hey, I'm going to quietly work behind the scenes and build discipline over a long sustained period of time so that I can swim this really long race. Or in my case, I can sustain a career working with the mortgage industry now almost 11 years running. right? So as far as coaching is concerned, what I do when I work with someone first and foremost is I ask them one very poignant question, and I know the answer. 97% of the times, I should say, I know the answer, but I still ask them the same question because the 2 or 3 biggest things people ask is, one, Michelle, I'm not getting any engagement. Okay. So that's pretty obvious.
Yep.
Or that's a pretty common question, right? I'm sure you've heard it many times yourself, Chris,
Sure.
from other people. All right. So number 1, I'm not getting any engagement. Number 2, Michelle, I'm not growing. I haven't gotten any follower growth. My platform seems stagnant, right? That's number 2. And number 3 is I haven't seen any ROI. Like I haven't gotten anything out of it. Right. I'm like, great. Okay. So based off of what you're telling me, I'm going to ask you one question and I want to know your answer. And my question is, have you intentionally sent a message to someone that you do not know every single day for the last 365 days?
Like a DM.
Or it could be anywhere. It could be on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Those are the big 3 for me. Instagram is my platform of choice, but as you and I have spoken on all 3 platforms, right? So I definitely encourage you to be using Instagram, but at the same time, I will tell you, you should be prospecting on LinkedIn and Facebook just as much. But the question still stands. Have you, or are you sending a message to someone that you do not know every single day on one of those 3 platforms? That's the single act that you need to be doing, right? And nobody says yes. I mean, you get 1, maybe 2 at the very most that'll be like, well, I'm
they're
kind of
fibbing. And they're fibbing.
Or they're like trying, but they haven't really like created a strategy around it. They're just sort of, pulling and praying, if you will, figuratively.
Right. So I get it. Engagement, growth, and ROI has got to be the top 3. And then are you engaging back in? But why would you ask that question?
Yep.
Is who are you asking who are you asking something that you don't know? And so the next thing that comes up is I could see the LO saying, well, what the heck do I say?
Mm-hmm. And who do you talk to? Right. That's the big thing. So this is where the conversation around coaching or a social media coach versus a social media prospecting expert comes into play. Right. So a lot of the times I'll have like a chart and kind of show you the difference between the 2 things. But a content strategist or a person who is considered a social media coach, their job is to teach you how to make better looking content, to make more consistent content, and to ultimately give you a presence that is reputable in theory. Right.
Okay.
So that is a very good thing. And you need that, right? You need a brand. You need to have a visual overall aesthetic of what it's going to look like, all of that stuff. But that is not what I do. Not that I can't teach you how to do that, but that's not my focus, because one is a content strategy and the other is a conversion strategy, right? So a social media coach is a content strategist. If you're looking at social and you're wondering why you're not generating ROI, it's because you have a content strategy, not a conversion strategy. They are not the same thing, right? So to answer the question for an LO who says, well, who am I supposed to be talking to? The answer is very simple, right? Who is your ideal client? Who are you trying to target? And now take it one step further, right? And in my world, we build this out in a tracker. It's kind of like an Excel spreadsheet almost, where you have a different category for each of the 5 days of the week. And I love visual analogies. It's just how I operate. So I want you guys to imagine like a swimming pool with like the lane lines, right? Lane lines are designed to keep you from going into the next person's lane or to veer off, right? And it's also designed to keep you going from the straightest direction or in the straightest line as possible to get from one side of the pool to the other. So when I built the tracker, I had that visual analogy in my mind of, I don't want you focused on Tuesday yet, right? I don't want you focused on Wednesday yet.
Sorry. I tried to hold my sneeze in because you were killing it and I couldn't hold it.
No, you're fine. But so you have 5 days of the week, right? Figure if you look at it as a kind of a chart, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And the lane line analogy is, I don't want you focused on Tuesday when it's Monday, and I don't want you focused on Wednesday when it's Tuesday. I want you to stay on your day. And each of the 5 days of the week, you have a specific ideal client for who you're trying to target. Now, if you're an LO, right, that's originating, you're looking at a real estate partner, you're looking at a vendor partner, you're looking at, divorce attorneys, CPAs, homeowners, insurance people, whoever those outside, maybe it's a builder or whatever. But you also need to be figuring out a way to tap into your consumer market or go what I call D2C. Now, if you're someone like me or you, Chris, that tracker looks very different. If you're an AE, that tracker looks different, right?
Sure.
Depending on who you are. If you're trying to actively recruit and that's your primary focus and you're not originating, again, your tracker looks different. So my job first and foremost is to work with the client and help them figure out who is that person for you. And then secondly, we have to talk about how to talk to them. So I got to tell you this story because this just happened, but I had a client who we set free. We taught him how to prospect. We built the 4-part framework for him for messaging and all of that. He went out to go do it and he sent 17 messages. He sends me an email and he says, Michelle, I haven't gotten any responses. Nobody's responded to any of it. Half of them haven't even read it. And
Okay.
I said, great, Tim, let's get on Zoom. I want to get on Zoom and look at it, right? This guy's name is Tim. He's awesome. And I said, let's see your messages. Can you screen share and show them to me? Right. And the very first sentence of his message, which mind you, on any platform, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, you can see that thumbnail or that first little half of a sentence that someone sent you before you even open it. And his said, hello, I would love to jump on a call with you, period. That was how he started the message. Chris, you and I both know that's a big problem, right?
Right.
So huge issue there. Now, the rest of his message, which we'll talk about leverage a lot because that's my favorite word in the English dictionary, but he did a good job with leverage. He added it into the message later on, and his framework was all there, all the right parts of the framework, but they were half-assed, backwards, and out of order, right? So we had to fix it. So we rewrote his messages and we told him the next day, go send a new set of messages to a new set of 15 to 20 people. I got an email 24 hours after that. He didn't just get one appointment. He got 4 from one set of 20 messages. And it wasn't because he did anything different other than just reorganizing the structure of the message. So, I don't know if that answers your question, but the reality is we have to pick who your person is that you need to be talking to. And second, we need to make sure that you're talking to them properly so that your message actually gets read.
Yeah. I mean, I love this. It's real simple. So, I mean, you're like, okay, let's pick the ideal client and then let's send so many a day. And then let's organize the message so you can create impact right away.
Yep.
Instead of saying, hello, this is Chris. I'd love to be able to jump on a call with you. And you're like, okay, I'm getting sold something.
Yep.
You're changing the framework to an engagement piece that they could read in the very beginning and then giving them the freedom of the choice to be able to respond back. Yes?
Yes. My goal is 2 things. One, I want my clients to create clout in the message, but in a really tactful way. Right.
So give me an example of a clout good message that you would send.
Do you remember how I sent you a message? One of the very first messages I ever sent you?
I do not.
So I do, because I remember, I'm like an elephant. I remember all the stuff. It's weird.
Oh crap. So don't ever get in an argument with you because you just remember everything.
No, it's just even my COO, she makes fun of me all the time because every call I have, like the person I met, however I met them, like I just don't forget those things. Don't ask me what somebody's name might be, but I can remember the story and exactly what we talked about. Like it's just, and even awesome. As a swimmer and as a competitive CrossFitter for many years after that, I know exactly what my best times were in all my best events. I know exactly what all my times were for all of the CrossFit girls workouts, which are the benchmark workouts for CrossFit. Like I just have a weird memory. But for you, I met your daughter on accident at an event I was speaking at actually in January of this year. I had a phenomenal almost 2-hour conversation with your daughter, and she just had her son, right? I have an almost 4-year-old son. And we just bonded, like her and I just bonded over life and a lot of the similar experiences. And I reached out to the person that introduced Shelby and I said, hey, should I reach out to Chris? And just got her feedback. So I sent you a message, but in the message, I leveraged my now existing relationship with your daughter.
Yep. And I do remember that.
That message, in essence, gave me the clout to you where you're like, this isn't someone that's just trying to get my attention and I don't know what it's for. Right. As I say, and I've said this many, many times, you have to earn the right to sit at the table with people. And I also think you can very easily talk yourself out of it. Right. So I think first and foremost, do you have leverage? Have you created it? And then secondly, when you send this message, it's not about me, it's about you. And it's about how I can support or feel like I can support the person that I'm sending this message to. And so it's not about, hey, here's my resume of all the things I've done. Instead, my job is to storytell, to give you a visual of the person that I referred to, my lever or my leverage point, right? So when I said Shelby in your message, you immediately created a picture in your mind of your daughter, right? That's just what our brains do. That's psychology. So when you create that, you have a positive association to this person, and therefore I am more likely to gain the same positive lens from you, the person on the receiving end. Right. Sure. So I'll try to not nerd out on the psychology side because it is something I really, really love. But what I can tell you is that's how our human brain works, is we create a narrative around the person that I'm using as a lever. So if I were to name drop someone to you and you're like, oh my gosh, I strongly dislike that person, not going to do anything for me.
Right.
Right. So
you have to be careful to mention the right person, which is pretty safe when you mention Shelby.
Well, yeah, I mean, who doesn't love your daughter? But I think it comes down to earning the right, understanding who you're talking to, and framing it in a way that actually creates the desire on your end, the person on the receiving end of the message, to want to respond back to me. And psychologically, if you do it right, the person on the receiving end of that message will almost feel bad if they don't respond or don't say yes.
Right. Yeah. Old school, Michelle, we call that triangle of trust.
Yeah.
You're nerding out in all this psychology stuff. You're way smarter than me. But I'm like, yeah, I mean, I use it naturally, but you're using it in the platform, which I think is brilliantly done. Like, I feel like more people need to use that strategy more often. The hard part is people have to think about, okay, who could I use as that trust? And then word it into the correct way. So framing that has to be part of the key of the message. Yes.
Absolutely. And you said it, the hard part is who and how and what the message framework is. And I'll tell you what, there have been many, many, many of messages over my several years of doing this, right? I'm in year 11 where I got lots of no's. I got lots of left on reds, lots of ignores. Now that doesn't happen. I'm not saying it won't ever happen, but it doesn't really happen. But I put the reps in, frankly. And for me, being able to then coach someone on how to do it comes from a place of, I have done it. I have felt the pain of getting the no's. I have felt the pain of being turned down or chosen over. And that makes, in my mind, right, that makes it that somebody, or makes me somebody that people want to trust or will trust to get them to the same quote finish line that they're after. So framing the message is important, but trusting that you can get it done or learn from someone who has already figured that out. That's where the, reverse engineering process comes in. Cause I love reverse engineering failure. I think it's the most important thing you could ever do in your career or in your business, because failure will teach you something if you study it. But most people don't want to face it because it's painful and it sucks. And a lot of the times it's cost them a lot of money.
Well, it costs them a lot of money not to face it.
Exactly. But it's choose your hard, right?
Right. Choose your hard. Okay, a couple things real quick. Let's clean up a couple questions. One, Michael said, with the 3 platforms in today's market, I think that this is probably question number 4 you always get. Best to go after one platform over another, or should I go after, I'm going to finish his question, or should I go after all 3?
Yeah, I mean, I go after all 3. That is because the ideal client for me personally lives on all 3. So I think it's a matter of who is your ideal client. And that's a conversation that you either need to have with someone like myself or someone like Michael, right? Like Chris can get you there too, just as much as I could. But in this case, it's a matter of who is your ideal client and where do they live? Now, I'll give you an example, right? If I'm looking for a C-suite executive to get me in front of their company, that's LinkedIn, right? If I'm looking to a one-on-one direct LO individual that I want to help coach, or that was referred to me by another coaching client, that's Instagram or Facebook for that matter. Really, Facebook and Instagram, they're pretty married as far as, the ideal client and are they on there. Now, also on Facebook, this is where, I get tagged in a ton of stuff all the time in different Facebook groups that I'm part of. If I'm in the Women's Mortgage Network, somebody tags me, it's like I'm going to message that person on Facebook because I'm being tagged on Facebook, right? So it's in the medium that person is active, I think is also important. So I don't think it's one or the other. I also don't think it has to be all three, depending on who you are and who your ideal client is. But I also think you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't live on all three.
Yeah. I find that maybe you could touch on it, but I find like I might be friends with Michelle on Facebook and Instagram, but somehow my feed shows up to Michelle more on Instagram than Facebook. And so it's not like she's seeing the message. Oh, I just saw that on Facebook and now I'm seeing it on Instagram, which is a paranoia of mine, but I don't feel like it works that way.
Mm-mm. I don't see hardly any, not because I don't want to, but Facebook is just not where I see you very much, Chris. I see you on Instagram almost every day. And LinkedIn, I've started to see a lot more of too. But like Shelby, for example, I always see her on Facebook. Hardly ever do I see her on Instagram. So part of it is the algorithm. Part of it is like, who do I engage with more on what platforms? But again, that's why I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't live on all three. Now I have all three open on my bar, all day, every day, just because that's what I do. But
Right.
doesn't mean you have to do that. It just means you have to make a cognizant effort to do it every single day.
So the C word comes back up into the messages. It says, how do I stay consistent in messaging new people each day? I worry I will only do it for a few weeks. And that goes back to my I'm going to start it and then Michelle's going to end it. But like, remember when I said in the very beginning, you got to bet on yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't win without betting on yourself and you can't stay consistent without betting on yourself. But how do I stay consistent?
Yeah. So I hope this is okay, Chris, but I'm going to like create another analogy because that's just what I do. But
Okay.
If you imagine the black line on the bottom of a pool, right? I stared at that thing for a very long time over my career, right? So I swam for almost 20 years, all through college, specialized in the mile. My average practice in college was anywhere between 10 and 12,000 yards staring at that thing. Very long time to trust that black line would get me from one lap to the next lap, from one side of the pool to the other side of the pool, do a flip turn, turn around and come back and do it again.
I never knew what you looked at. I just figured you just went straight. But
nope.
You actually, there's a line at the bottom of the pool.
There is a black line with a T at the end that indicates that there is a wall coming. So you do not face plant into the wall and you can do a flip turn and turn around.
All right. All right.
But the consistency aspect is when all of the noise fades, right? And the excitement of, oh my gosh, this is working fades. How do you show up after that? And that is where you can go. And I say this all the time, and I'll say it again here. When I go and I speak in a room, or if I do like a fun little mastermind group, even if it's only like 20 people, right? This is what I'll ask them. I said, how many of you guys have been to a social media class in the last week, 2 weeks, month? The whole room will raise their hand, right? Okay, next question. How many of you guys have been to 2 or 3 in the last couple of months? Whole room keeps their hands up. And so my promise to them is that they will never have to go to another social media class again if they listen to the one thing that I'm about to tell them. And it's that if you just follow the plan that is laid out in front of you and you don't give up when the dopamine wears off, because it's going to, you will win. And it will fade, right? After a couple of weeks. I don't know who asked that question, but Maria, right? After those first couple of weeks, it will fade, right? So do you, one, have the self-discipline to keep going? 2, do you have the accountability of someone that is checking on you to make sure that is happening? And I think part of it too is, do you want to be successful or not? And I think this ties into an article I posted on LinkedIn this morning about athletes just do it better, right? There's something about a personality profile of someone who has been in some form of competitive anything. I don't even care if it's freaking chess, right? But a competitive person in any capacity is going to have that discipline ticker, if you will. I don't know if that's the right way of saying that, but they're just they're going to have it over someone that doesn't.
So Stephanie asks, what's the method of choosing your message for day, week, month? And do you build it out in a calendar a month ahead of time? Like, I think I know Stephanie, but I would say, I think your question is like, how far do I really build this calendar out for my messaging? And do they all have to connect together?
No. So every day of the week, if you imagine your calendar, you have 5 days, right? And if you want to prospect on the weekends, please do. I'm a mom and a wife, and I take Saturday and Sunday off, or else my brain just won't turn off. So Monday, I have a category for the day. Tuesday, I have a category for the day. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you get the drill there as far as you got to pick somebody that would, quote, be in your category. Now, here's the thing I want you guys to pay attention to. And you have one job, right? The one job is to send a message every single day to someone that you do not know, and to do it in a perfect world through leverage, right? Meaning, who is the person or name that you can leverage to create that new opportunity for yourself. So leverage, I kind of laughed about it earlier, but it's my favorite word in the English dictionary for a reason. I don't know actually what the Webster definition of leverage is, nor do I care. But what I can tell you, my definition is it's your ability to build a bridge between somebody that you already have a relationship with to get to someone that you don't. So your very first homework assignment is to determine who your levers could be, right? Now, I have probably about a dozen total that I would very, very, very confidently name drop and know that it would create a good opportunity, meaning the person on the receiving end of that message is going to see that name and they're going to say, yes, I want to talk to Michelle, or they're going to be like, hard no, I don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty confident in my dozen or so that I have. Now, I take those 12 people, just for round numbers, and I divide it among the categories of what I'm trying to accomplish, right? Meaning, what do I want to, quote, get opportunity wise? Speaking is one of my favorite things to do, but I also love doing webinars or spending time with people like you, like this, Chris, because it keeps me home. I get to go pick my son up after this from summer camp, right? So webinars is a big one for me. Podcasting is a big one for me. And then you get speaking as number 3 because I love it and I enjoy doing it. So those are the 3 categories of what I'm trying to earn. But I have one action item, which is to send a message every day to someone that I do not know in one of those, or with the intention, I should say, of getting one of those 3 things.
Yeah.
Right. So this is where the black line comes in. If you just follow it, one message in whatever your categories are of who you're trying to target or what you're trying to earn, try to get in front of a realtor. Great. That means 2 or 3 days of the week, you should be talking to agents. Now you can break it down and have different types of days for agents, right? One of your days could be talking to agents that are on the listing side of transactions. I don't know, right? If it makes sense for you to do, great. One of the days could be talking to your top 50 agents that are in your database that you've done at least 1 to 2 deals with over the last year. You have a day on your tracker where you're only talking to people in that category, right? Meaning you got to go find them and create conversation with them. And so to answer, or to come back full circle to answer the question there, the method is, what are you trying to earn? What are the categories of what that looks like? And that's where you then make the decision of that one message I'm going to send that day is with the intention of creating an opportunity in one of these categories.
Yeah.
So just structure. I can't say it enough. You just have to have structure, because if you're throwing spaghetti at the wall and you wake up every morning and you're looking at socials and you're like, well, I think I could name drop Chris, but maybe not. I don't know. I'm kind of guessing. You're going to stare at Instagram. You're going to stare at LinkedIn. You're going to stare at Facebook for forever. And you're going to look up and say, shit, it's been 2 hours and I haven't done anything.
Yeah. And going back to our first question of messaging is that you got to continue as yourself, you got to continue to learn. Like you got to keep pushing yourself to learn to be able to have the right and the correct messaging out there. Because she's talking about choosing the method to be able to message and have a message, like messaging people and then having a message. Both tying together. Last question, then we could get on to some good stuff. I hear this a lot. I have open separate business accounts or on 3 platforms or use my personal accounts. I have a personal opinion on this one, but I'm saving it. Would your response change if I mentioned that I am not active on my personal accounts?
No, my response would not change. You need 1 account, not 5. You need 1, right? And that 1 account needs to be a collaboration of, maybe collaboration is the wrong word, a smorgasbord, maybe sounds better, of all of it, right? And I always tell people, like, go look at my Instagram, Berman Media Social. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I love fitness, I work out a lot, I love hole in the wall coffee shops. I'm married to somebody I'm very proud to be married to, and I talk about him a lot. But I love random things. I love cooking. I love baking. I love doing all of these things that make me me, right? And I'm very open about
But
sharing
that
those.
sounds like a personal page.
Correct. However, the business content that shows up on my page is a direct reflection of, is Michelle who she says she is, right? And the biggest thing with the personal content being there is it is a combination of Michelle is a real person that is somebody or like somebody else and can resonate with someone else. But also it makes you more likely to pay attention to the business content when I do share it, because you now like me, right? Or you now feel like you have some kind of connection to me. Therefore, when I post about, hey, I'm going to be speaking at this thing, or hey, this thing is available, you can purchase it, or whatever the heck it is, right? You are more likely to pay attention. So this is where the saying comes from, in my mind, two things. One, you have to earn the right to talk about mortgages in your content. It's not a God-given gift, right? I mean, you don't get to just talk about it all day, every day, and expect for it to do anything, because it won't. You'll just create a lot of indifference in people. So number one, Matt, you have to earn your right. Number two, the personal content, it is the foundation of how you prospect, because when you prospect someone, when you are trying to create a relationship with someone, what's the first thing you guys heard, to tie this back, right? You heard how my client Tim failed, right? Because the opening of his message was, hello, I'd like to jump on a call with you. What did he do wrong? He went straight for the kill. He went straight for the ask. He didn't create a relationship or a leverage point with this person first, right? He didn't make it about them. He made it about him. So your personal content is the foundation of how you prospect. It has to be there, because psychologically, when I click on a message, like Chris, you send me a message, my first instinct is, who is Chris? Click on his profile and I look at it. If I see nothing but mortgage, 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 mortgage all day, I am out, because I don't know who you are, right? So you have to give that stick factor of, am I who I say I am? And then also, like on a sales call, think about it like that. Do you pick up a phone call or pick up a call and call someone and the first thing out of your mouth is, I'd like to help you with your mortgage? No, hopefully not, or else you probably are not very good at sales, right? But you should be talking about them and trying to get to know them about what they're doing or something that they posted about, and using that as a conversation starter. So again, your content is the foundation of how you prospect. So it is one page with a combination of all of that on there, because I am a real person, but yes, I am available for quote hire, right? And you have to find the balance.
Yeah, I mean, I'm being transparent. Like if someone sends me a deal to join a business account, I decline every time. If they ask me to join or to connect, especially like on LinkedIn, a personal account, I will accept. And it's because I do business with people, not with businesses. And so maybe I'm old and old fashioned, but like, hey, look, if I'm good enough if you want my business, then you got to be a real person. And so following business pages is just like, no, I'm not going to do it.
I won't either. But I am a business account on Instagram. So let's just be clear on the difference of it, right? And it is a business account as far as how you set up the profile, right? Because I want to have a contact button. I want to be able to have the analytics behind it that I would not get if I was a personal Instagram page versus a business Instagram page. But if you go to my Instagram, you will not see business, 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 business all the time. You're going to see all of that. I mean, just this morning when I went to CrossFit and posted a quick video in my stories of a lift that I had done that made me happy, because my weights are starting to come back up to the numbers that I'm used to doing, right? But I definitely don't look like what I look like right now in that video, because guess what? I was in the gym. Right. But
you're being real.
Exactly.
What's the biggest mistake mortgage pros or agents make on Instagram?
Ooh, incredible question. The biggest mistake is that they're way too focused on selling or teaching and adding value than they are connecting, right? Because I don't really care about your loan program or about what this product can do if I don't want to work with you as a person, or if I don't know who you are first, right? So they're product heavy, they're focused on, the internal marketing content. They're expecting it to work for them, and that they'll just wake up on one day and be like, wow, I have 5 leads in my inbox. Like, that's so far from possible in most cases because there's no person behind it. So I could go on lots of tangents there, but first and foremost, they're not creating a desire in the person on the receiving end, because all they're doing is in their mind educating, which is actually making me tune you out.
What's the most misunderstood thing on algorithms?
Oh, algorithms is a freaking annoyance. But basically what will happen that I can tell you there is the more you look at something, the more Instagram's going to keep showing you more of that thing, right? So you can train your algorithm to show you what it should be showing you if you curate it over a long sustained period of time. But it can very easily be changed, right? Meaning it can very easily divert. Now, I'll give you an example. I was pregnant in September of last year. I unfortunately miscarried, but in the process of doing that, right, what did I do? I had another one of my best girlfriends from the gym. She was newly pregnant too. We were talking about what our summer was going to look like this summer with our babies, and it was all, so next thing you know, my freaking Instagram is full of all this stuff, right? Because we're sharing reels back and forth. Now my Instagram looks a lot different today than it does or did then, but now, I'm really focused on, and I've been talking a lot about this, I'm really focused on helping my clients actually do more personal reading than just business reading in their day-to-day. There's lots of reasons for that, but so I'm in Instagram a lot, looking at personal reading books and sharing funny reels of, hey, you should read this book, or here's the author I was talking about. And so my Instagram feed, as far as my Explore feed, will change dramatically. So it is what you feed it, very similar to what you've heard about ChatGPT, right? Where it is what you feed it. It's very, very similar.
Best book right now?
On the personal or professional side?
Maybe both.
Okay, so on the personal side, I'm actually holding it. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's called Practicing the Way. So my husband and I, after miscarrying in November, we made a very cognizant choice as a family to spend a lot more time in the Word and to study discipleship and just create some space in our days for spiritual formation, because it hadn't been a priority for us. And we were trying to find the message in our life, is what I'll say, of why this was happening to us. So instead of running away from God, we decided to chase him. So that's the book that we're currently reading. It's so good. It's called Practicing the Way. The guy is on Instagram. He has several books, but he has a podcast that goes with it. So it's 12 chapters, and you can listen to a podcast episode that goes with each of the 12 chapters. So we really, really love it. We've shared it with a lot of our friends and family, and it's been a fun book. Now, on the business side, I'm actually reading this one. It's also on my desk. It's called Before the Bestseller, because I have a book coming out in about 60 days that I really want to do super well. So I'm hoping that I can make that happen. And so
what's the title of the book going to be?
It is going to be called The Black Line, like we've been talking about. So the black line on the bottom of a pool. But the idea is, how do you decide what your black line is for your life? And the entire book parallels the 4 storms I speak on as far as my personal life. And it parallels the way in business that we can follow our black line to ultimately create the discipline we need to create a very sustainable, long business that will be around for a long, long time. The book is really a combination of like hope and loss and excitement and happiness and darkness and all of the things, and how on the personal side, for me, it's God. It's getting back to spending more time with him has pulled me out of every storm. And then on the business side, the black line is my single act that I have to do every single day in order to pull myself out of, or to continue to grow my business the way that I have, which is sending that single message every day without fail. That is my black line on the business side. So the book marries those things.
I was at Eddie's event last week, and he asked everybody a question, which I thought was great. And so I'm going to ask you this question.
Cool.
If you could wave a magic wand and all originators would like immediately change their mindset, what would it be?
I would tell them to pay better attention to stories that are happening around them and tell better stories, and do a better job at using stories as leverage, right? Because I think that that's something that people don't pay attention to. And again, I'll go back to my quote that I always say, which is that God gives us a mess to give us a message, but it's up to us to see the message. And in order to see the message, we have to pay attention to what's going on around us and be willing to face that. And so I interviewed somebody the other day, actually on my podcast. That episode comes out on Friday. But he story tells. He does not talk about mortgage at all. He's an incredibly good originator. He's based out of Georgia. Could retire tomorrow and never do another loan if he wanted to. He just loves doing loans, so he's going to keep doing them. But all of his Facebook content, all of his Instagram content, everything is a story. And he doesn't sell. He doesn't talk about mortgages. He doesn't talk about rates. He doesn't talk about product. He doesn't talk about any of that. All he does is tell stories. But he has this really, really killer way of prospecting when people comment on stuff. So I'll just give you guys a little sneak peek of it. You'll have to go listen to the episode. But when someone comments on something he posts, that's a story. For example, he had a waitress at a restaurant and she had a tattoo on her forearm. Now, I don't know if you guys can see that, but I have a big tattoo on my arm. So that's why I was pointing to that. But the girl actually had an I love you tattooed right across her forearm. And mind you, this was a young, probably early 20s waitress at a little diner in Rossview, Georgia. And it said, I love you. And my client, Alan, actually asked her.
I knew you were talking about Alan.
Yeah.
Exactly. I knew you
Alan Christian. He's incredible. Yeah. I have a whole story about him, but he was actually at the very first speaking gig I ever got back in 2020. He was the keynote speaker. So that's when I met Alan. Okay. But this young girl, right, serving him and his mom, that he was taking his mom out for breakfast, serving him and his mom breakfast, right, had I love you. And he actually asked her out of curiosity, what does that mean? Like, what is the significance of the word I love you? And the story was that her grandma had actually passed away and had written the words I love you down for her. And she went and got her grandma's handwriting of how she wrote I love you on her arm. And then what Alan did was he posted that. He told the story on social. But when someone comments on something, so like, let's say I comment on that post about whatever it is that he shared, or I have a thought, an insightful something I want to add. He then replies to my comment with a picture of him with me, right? So Alan, actually, my husband is a former strength and conditioning coach for the Army. He actually just started his own company, but we were at BRC. If you're familiar with the military, BRC stands for Best Ranger Competition. It's basically the Olympics of the military. Well, it's at Fort Benning every year, and Alan lives very close to Fort Benning. So when we found out we were going, I texted him and I said, hey, I'd love to see you. Can we take you out for lunch while you're here? He came. He drove an hour and a half on his motorcycle to come. Spent the whole day with my husband. Spent the whole day with my husband and I and my 3-year-old son, Knox, at the time. And he took a picture with all of us. And so when I comment on any of his content, he actually replies back to my comment with a picture of him with us. It gives him validity, right? And he does it with everyone, not just me. That is legitimately how he's gotten 97% of his business, is by being so present on social and storytelling, and then actually showing that he knows the person that's commenting. And it creates that Alan is exactly who Alan says he is.
Yeah. Well, he loves people.
True.
And it's so genuine and real. It's very attractive.
Yes.
And you can see how he's grown his business. So if I'm gonna, wrap it up, if people want to learn more, if they want to work with you, if they want to make sure they don't miss this podcast that you and Alan did, how do they connect to you? And being able, I know it's multiple different ways, but what's the easiest way to get connected with you if they want to learn more?
Yeah, just look up Michelle Berman Mikel on Instagram. Berman Media Social is right there. I would love for you guys to connect with me there. I'll tell you right now, first and foremost, I respond to all of my own messages. It is not AI. It is not ChatGPT. It is Michelle. And it is also not an assistant. So that's another conversation for another day, but you can get me there. Berman Media Social on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, or just Michelle Berman Mikel. Also, tell Chris he has my phone number. So
you bet. I would love to get you guys connected. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for coming on. This was super fun. Like 50 minutes like flew by. I can't even believe it.
Yeah.
We could just keep going on and on and on, but we try to keep them under an hour. Guys, if you want to reach out to Michelle, I highly encourage it. She's coaching a couple of my good friends right now, and I know that she would do an amazing job for you. And she does it different than just how she's talking about it, the prospecting side, which prospecting coach. I love the way you've labeled that. It's literally genius. Second thing is that, look, you got a choice with all AMCs. We love working with, and we work with some of the best AMCs, but I'm going to tell you something. You got to check out this next one. I got a short message for you, and thanks for checking in with Coaching with Chris.
Thanks, guys.
When we say Arrives is a national company with a local presence, that's not just a quaint, cute saying. It actually means something.
The saying is what they offer, national coverage with local management, but it's also what they value and what makes them unique from any other appraisal management company out there.
Jane might be good at new builds, Bob might be better at historical properties, etc., etc. And you can only know that, going back to the people business, with relationships built on the ground by our area directors, specifically with the appraisers there on the local level.
Each area director, experienced appraisers themselves, knows the nuances of their area, enabling them to use the best appraiser for each assignment. But they say local insight alone isn't enough.
You need that protection, a national appraisal management company, somebody who knows what they're doing with the rules and the regulations and are making sure things are done good.
That's where the Arrives unique national local model really shines.
Founder and CEO Brian Caffrey says they're not a one-package-fits-all company that spits out appraisals, and they don't want to be.
You're looking for something higher quality, someplace that is going to take care of your transaction, take care of your loan officers, take care of your borrowers, take care of your branches, brokers.
And they have the perspective to do that. Their client manager, Greg Renkenberger, has over 30 years experience in lending.
From a lender side, there's no better person than me to be with an appraisal management company, because I know what the lender's feeling. I know what they're experiencing. I know the anxieties.
That insight lets them provide clients with service they won't get anywhere else.
We look at Arrives as a concierge appraisal management company, so we have specific people designed to work directly with those clients and build those relationships.
It's more than just answering the phone, it's working together.
The borrower is satisfied and they get a good experience, not just a good value on the appraisal, but a good overall experience, good communication. Then they're going to come back, and they're going to come back to the lender, the realtor, and then to us.
More than just an appraisal management company, a partner.
They told me only time will tell what the market will actually do, but whatever that is, they'll be ready. To learn more about Arrives, you can visit them at arrives.com, or if your mortgage lender is already an Arrives partner, yours is, you can order your next appraisal through them and see the difference for yourself. In Mesa, Arizona, at the Arrives headquarters, I'm Allison Caffrey.